Hello and welcome to D-SETI. We are talking about the ruler and compass. These are obvious proofs of intelligence. So this is a video in the video series, The Universal Language. Please do start at the beginning if you're curious. So what are we talking about here? Ruler and compass method of geometry. This is a very simple and ancient mode of working with geometry. This is the foundation for all of our math. If you have grown up in the Western cultures, you might be familiar with the Cartesian grid. So a number line, rectilinear number line, you plot these circles or graphs by looking at the numbers and going, oh, 2 up, 3 over, that sort of thing. And that's how you learn how to draw geometric shapes. However, you can actually use a ruler and compass to draw most of the complex geometric shapes that we deal with, or at least representations of them that are sufficient to prove and discover novel aspects of geometry. I felt really betrayed by the world when I realized that mathematics is actually beautiful art and not just strange computations and things you have to remember. So just know that calculus is actually beautiful diagrams, that someone seems to have systematically removed ruler and compass modes of education from our curriculum in favor of computer programming like functional algebra or arithmetic. This seems almost intentional given the obvious nature of geometry and these simple tools. So all of these figures that you see are generated. All of this stuff I'm talking about is analyzed using just these two tools, the ruler and the compass. So all of this information, all of this geometric understanding comes from Euclid, who was an ancient Greek geometer. And he wrote the book Euclid's Elements, and it starts with axioms and postulates and goes through proofs about the geometric world based on these axioms and postulates. You probably are familiar with Pythagorean theorem, the hypotenuse of a triangle. How do you prove that? Well, you use ruler and compass geometry to make lines that are similar to each other, or projections or something like that, that you can actually prove. And in a moment, I'll talk about what proof is. So I just wanted to read the first 3 postulates. Number 1, let it be granted that a straight line may be drawn from one point to any other point. 2, let it be granted that a finite straight line may be produced to any length in a straight line. And 3, let it be granted that a circle may be described with any center at any distance from that center. So here we're talking about mathematical capabilities in the mind that are essential to the ruler and compass method of work. And so this allows us to do geometry in our mind and geometry on a piece of paper. Book 1, Proposition 4. Let me just reset that. Book 1, Proposition 4 is really a strong basis for the work I'm doing, the congruence testing work. And so a proposition takes these axioms and says, hey, let's go prove this. And there's a statement of what needs to be proven, and then there's geometric constructions that happen. You do that in your mind if you can read it, or else ruler and compass as you can follow along. And so in here, this is a really interesting proof, because it proves if 2 triangles have 2 sides respectively equal to 2 sides, and the angles contained by the straight lines equal to the angles, then they will have the base equal to the base, and the triangle will be equal to the triangle, and the remaining angles will be respectively equal to the remaining angles which the equal sides subtend. So this is basically saying if you have 2 triangles in your mind and they have 2 known sides and the angle, right? So you're like, these are the same, these are the same. You know that the rest of the triangles are equal and equal in the mathematical world that we're working with. And so when this is some of the basis of congruence testing, right? So I do a ruler and method construction. I produce a diagram. I put it on the physical marking. I go, this is equal, this is equal, this is equal, this is equal. I'm relying on this proof to say, hey, if these things are equal, I can then deduce that all of the other mathematical things I know about the ruler and method construction are true about this anomalous marking. And so this is really the bridge to say, hey, we're dealing with intelligent, intentional communications from someone who is sensitive to our own theory of mind, right? So they're working with how we work with geometry. Anyways, this is an example of congruence testing. This is dots in a line phenomenon. This is a very clear one. It doesn't line up perfectly because the skin moves slightly and the angle of the photograph really is hard to get the exact proportions. But you can see the regularity of the dot patterns as well as the size of the dot is very, very clear. The red circles here are the same radius, and then the green circles are determined by the golden ratio. So there is clear mathematical communications happening. There's a clear congruence between the ruler and method construction and the dots themselves. I wanted to talk a bit about sacred geometry because this is really important to me. This is where this inquiry comes up out of. This is a second dream image too, by the way, in my dream series, being instructed by the dream people to work with geometry. I was following them. I thought I was going to go through an art series similar to this, generating beautiful, sort of colorful sacred geometries. Here we see the Vesica Pisces, the intersection of the two circles. And out of that comes a lot of the regular polygons, a lot of the tools that we use for ruler and compass method geometry. So I'd recommend checking that out. Another example of sacred geometry, here we have a star, regular pentagon, inscribed within a circle coming out of the Vesica Pisces. This is the sort of stuff I thought I was going to do when I was contacted in my dreams about this. So I was sort of following that inspiration, and then it brought me to crop circles. I wanted to talk about the historical precedent for this work. So here, this is the Sigillum de Ameth, the seal of Ameth, which is used by Dr. John Dee, the 16th century alchemist and scholar and advisor to Queen Elizabeth. This is clearly circular geometry that it has codes within it that involves regular polygons and things like that. So the stuff I'm showing you, the codes that we're working with crop circles and marks on the body, have been documented and worked with in non-human intelligence contexts since the dawn of writing. So this is not new information. Please do understand that. We are seeing the most recent manifestations of this intelligent geometric flow of consciousness, let's say. And so you just really need to know that the crop circles, these marks on the body, have historic precedent, and that historic precedent involves extraordinary geometries based on simple ruler and compass methods that involve political actions in the past. So everything in sacred geometry relates to unity. So this is an image of Metatron's cube. This is a single circle. It's also, you see there's 3 circles of each of those major radii. And then from this one figure, you can generate all of the images of the Platonic solids. This figure, I think, is what they asked me to do 2 years ago when I started looking into this. They said, please learn how to do the constructions for the Platonic solids. I thought they were talking about Euclid book 13, which is the 3-dimensional constructions, and that's like really hard to do. So then when I went through this series, they were like, no, we were just talking about the 2D ones. It's so easy. We wish you would have done this 2 years ago, but it's fine. Timing's okay now. So that's really important to note. It uses simple techniques. Ruler and method geometry use simple techniques. We are not talking about hypercubes. We're not talking about tesseracts or 64 or whatever. We're not talking about that. We are talking about stuff that kids can understand. Points, lines, and circles, bisecting lines, bisecting angles, dividing lines into whole numbers. 3, 5, 7, half, 8, 16, that sort of thing. You literally just count up the dots, or you count up the angles in these things, and you go, oh, it's divided by that many, and it's like, lo and behold, all the angles are that. So all the distances are that. So it also works with division of line by golden ratio, and you also need to know how to draw approximate regular polygons of sides, 3 to 12, not 1 to 12. So those are the simple techniques I use. It's very, very simple. I think I've used division of the line by 5, as well as the hexagon construction many times, and bisection, and that's really it. It's not complex, so do it yourself. Tell me what you find. What does all this mean? Ruler and method constructions, testing of crop circles and anomalous communications. It means we're dealing with geometry, geometric objects, mathematical objects, not artifacts or accidents. It means that even if it was an abduction and there's a mark on your body that you remembered as an IV in a dream, it means that actually is a mathematical communication, that alien or whatever used that IV to make a communication that will extend beyond the multiple phases of consciousness associated with that strange state and come into the waking phase. How extraordinary is that? These are mathematical communications when we do the congruence testing with simple ruler and compass constructions. That is the key. To put the construction on top of the marking or communication is the actual key in the mind to say, this is no longer accidental or cloud figures or dots that you're seeing things into. This is actually a mathematical communication. And when you do that proof, right, you're not going to look at the stuff I do and go, oh, okay, that's proof. You actually have to go through it, because the ruler and compass method of geometry is outside on the piece of paper is really just a representation of those 3 postulates I shared with you that happen in the mind space. And that's really important to know, because guess what else happens in the mind space? Telepathy and dream communication. So this is telepathy and dream communication validated by expression across multiple phases of consciousness with these simple methods of geometry. It's amazing. Get into it. Try that out yourself. See if you can find the congruence and see what happens when you do that. When you're not sitting on the computer looking at other people's data, right? Start working with it in a way that touches your heart and mind. And then you might discover that these mark makers are intelligent and presumed to be lifelike we know it. It might be sneaky, hoax-based humans, dream entities, or ETs. I have my theories. I'm pretty clear about that. I'm not making those claims yet. But I have my hypothesis. What else explains this? They are observant and have an effective theory of our mind. They teach us geometry through these marks. They are aware of our communications to them. Right? These markings may be objective, interpersonal, subjective means of communication. They might involve multiple modes of communication. And finally, association with CE5 and intentional contact means that these marks, means that these non-human intelligences are contacting us back through these, and that we are in the later stages of a documented and meaningful conversation. I'm not a main person in that conversation. I'm just saying, hey, there's these codes. I'm seeing this. Other people have a tremendous amount of data and videos around this. Please use these ruler and method compass to look at their data. We'll find stuff there. So this comes out of the context of D-SETI, the Dream Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or the Dream Studies of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, depending on your perspective. It's based on my work that I offer dreamwork sessions, hypnosis, and academic work. I'm a PhD student. I'm got a master's degree in psychology. I'm educated in the history and philosophy of math and science. If you want to know more, check out dseti.org. Please do engage your own path of discovery and learning with this. Like I said, the ruler and compass method is really an outward form of something that goes on in your own mind and heart. So the working and seeing these congruence testing, The circles on the lines and the dots or whatever will not make sense unless you've sort of played around with a compass yourself and said, how do I draw the golden ratio? When you do that, you'll start to see much more meaning. And I would invite you just to do that whenever and however feels good to you. You can start studying it as you like. You can start practicing it. These are simple tools. And they're rather fun to do. Please know that even though we're dealing with anomalous communications, that in my experience, all of the communications have been respectful and kind. That they are, I deal with dream characters mostly, and the dream characters are kind, respectful, and mysterious. They rarely show their faces. They rarely show who they are. They simply communicate with me and establish rapport with me in a way I go, okay, all right, let's work together. And so I'm trying to establish that rapport with you, or invite you to establish that rapport with yourself. Ruler and compass method geometry is really one of the best ways to do that with your own mathematical and scientifically oriented mind. Please do know that if you had a hard time in math and science as a kid in school, this is not that. It is joyful. Ruler and compass method is joyful. It is fun. You don't have to do the geometric proofs. You can just learn how to build really cool stuff. And when you build that really cool stuff and draw it in and color it in, it pops and you go, wow, that's amazing. And you have a journey that really does change the quality of your mind. You're working with directly working with frequency. This is a wonderful path of meditation. So I just wanted to encourage you on that. I wanted to thank you for being on this journey of exploration with me. This is really, really important work. And so with that, I will see you in the next video.